We are celebrating all the holidays at once this week on Making It.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
No surprise on this song.
I'm making it.
Yeah.
I'm making it. I've got the goods. Yeah, I know the lyrics. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Season 1, Episode 4 of Making It. I am Tamara Berg. I'm joined in the studio by Steve Bottomley.
That's me.
Kelsey Hightower.
Hello.
John Comerford.
Right here.
And you guys, today we have artist, amazing guy, and incredible talent, contestant on Making It, Billy Kheel with us.
Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen.
Billy has exhibited his work nationally and internationally. He's been featured in the Los Angeles Times, he and his work, Los Angeles Magazine, Vice's Creators Project, sorry about that, KCRW's Design and Architecture, and KCET's Art Abound.
Look at that.
Wow.
And most recently,
Artbound.
and most
God.
recently, Making It.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But what a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
We are going to, for those of you who are watching us on YouTube, we are going to show some of Billy's work here a little bit later. But right now, we're going to get right into our breakdown of the show. So let's get started. We had our Faster Craft, which is a 3-hour Halloween costume, last minute for Simon's costume party.
Yeah. First question right off the bat. Is it really 3 hours?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right. Awesome. In your costume, you had to use 3 of one of the 5 following items: coffee filters, metal scrubby, dish scrubbies, a shower scrubby, a feather duster, and a rope mop. Side note, that was not a loofah.
That was right.
For craft purists,
Thank
I just
you.
want to make sure that that's really clear. That was not a loofah.
It's a what? It's a scrubby?
It was a shower scrubby, yeah.
Scrub-
A loofah is
shower.
actually an organic, it's the interior skeletal system of a gourd.
Wow.
Most people think it's a
Thank
sea
you.
creature, but it's not. You can grow it in your garden.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, anyway,
you can
so-
grow a
Thank
loofah.
you, Webster.
Yeah, quick side note.
I didn't know that much about it,
Exactly.
but I do now.
Yes. Yes.
And we've been hoping for this because we've been saying all along we want them to see what they can do with all having
Yes.
the same quote
Yes.
ingredients or elements to work
Yes.
with. And this must have been fascinating for you because usually you don't get this. This is you don't know what you got in the box. And then seriously, what was your first thought, Billy, when you opened the box and you went, "What the? what were you thinking?"
I was, it was kind of like, oh man, this is a weird, collection of things,
Yeah. I have to use 3 of these.
Yeah, it was like, how am I gonna, like a mop? You know what I mean? It was
Right.
like, it wasn't. It was a challenge for sure.
So my first thought with the mop, because I did this when I was a kid, was a Raggedy Ann wig. That was my first thought with the mop.
A wig.
Yeah, I was thinking Raggedy Ann, like with a meth problem. That's where you could use the steel wool.
Yeah, right.
Not sure what to do with the rest of them because that's as far as I got with it.
Okay.
Hey, this episode.
Well, if you have a
could
meth problem, how far could you get
No,
with it?
well, for me, that was
right,
pretty
so,
deep.
right, okay.
Tension is starting to show in this episode.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
people
Oh,
are
yeah.
starting to break, except for you.
Yeah,
You were
it's
stoic.
stalwart. Yeah, the intrepid.
Smiles all the
We
time.
all have our own ways of dealing with it, I guess.
Did you sense that? I mean,
Do
was
tell.
Could you feel tension progressing as the weeks went by? Because I mean, you have to be so creative for so long, and
Yeah, well, I think in the episode, like Joe talked about it a little
Yeah.
bit, and Amber as well, like just sort of being away for a while and everything. I mean, yeah, this is getting to be like, it's been there a while, and it's starting to get to you a little bit.
It was starting to show up in a lot of different. Like Robert was having trouble figuring out what looked more like whipped cream. The non-loofah
Right.
Or
or
scrubby.
a mop.
them up.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, man, it's go with the loofah.
Go with the scrubby, yeah.
So, but yeah, after week, and I've got a question to that later, but it must just be your brain must start to go a little bit like, I don't know what's left or right at this point.
Yeah, I think that's definitely, it's definitely true. I mean, it was a hard challenge, especially when they're giving you, and then, with this show, like, you really want to connect it to yourself and kind of like have a story to tell. So that's even that much more sort of thinking you have to do, as soon as you hear about the challenge.
And in addition, I'm guessing on some level you're going, all right, what are the judges going to respond to? Because they've been giving this feedback, and if I don't in some way assimilate that,
Yeah, yeah.
Your chances for going home increase.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, luckily, like Simon Doonan, like I mean, it was like great to take advice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, just like he is just just a genius, and it was like having him come up and have some suggestions was always like kind of a highlight. You know, to be like, what's he gonna come up with next? You know.
Best to take his advice if he offers it.
Yeah, I mean, usually it was cool, you know. He was like, "Wow, I didn't think of that." Like, I'm gonna try that, you know. And I thought Dana was really good at like, keeping you to like, all right, this is the challenge. Like, where's your this? What's the, to make sure you're kind of like, you're hitting your marks, kind of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I want to slip in one question real quick too. Do they give you more advice that we don't see on camera? Like, do they talk to you a lot more about that? Because I feel like we get little snippets, and sometimes they don't make sense, or they're like, oh, that wasn't original, and then it goes to somebody else, and you're like, but I don't understand. Like, it was great. So do they talk to you more about your craft, like, outside of what we see?
Oh, yeah. They would visit, like, it was, I mean, it's basically like they said, like, it was like, everything we did just chopped way down, chopped to like way down. So, I mean, those like visits they would do with us in the middle of a project, sometimes those would go on for like a little while where we'd have chatting and jokes, and they'd have suggestions and critiques.
I know you're going, hey, I got 3 hours. Let's go. Move it along.
It was kind of like that, but I mean, on the other hand, I mean, these are like two of the funniest people ever, so it's not you're going to be like, hey, could you get out of here? I want to finish painting this. Like,
I didn't think Dana and Simon were that funny. Oh, you're talking.
Simon is really funny, though.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay,
he's really funny, too. I mean, all of them were great. So it's kind of like you're like, kind of still working, while you're talking to them.
Okay, so let's go down each of the crafts. So we had Robert did the prize-winning blueberry pie with 4 and 20 blackbirds baked in. He used pool noodles. I'm not going to break all this down because I don't want to take away our Billy time. But it was called chic and had good use of materials.
Right. I didn't get the chic part.
He talked about how his pie crust was chic.
Okay.
Anybody? Any thoughts?
The sheet comes in later for me.
Okay, right?
Yeah.
All right, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
The funny thing was, as I looked at it, I didn't quite see the pie. When he described it, I knew what he was going for, but when he actually had it on, I went, I didn't, it wasn't very easily discerned that it was a pie.
And I think part of that had to do with the vantage point. If you're standing right in front of him, what you see is the front of the pie plate crust. You don't see the blueberries and all that kind of stuff.
And I often don't see a man standing in
the middle
in
of a pie.
I often don't see it. So that might have
Hang out
been.
with me more.
Yeah.
To that
jump in
end, you
pies.
also often don't see a woman standing in the middle of a clothes dryer.
That's
Yeah, that's true.
So we did have the sock monster from Joe.
Yeah. I have to say, I love the visual of everybody when the judges come out and they're all lined up and
God.
she's down.
And she
It was
walked.
so fun.
Yeah.
No, she didn't walk.
That was so cute.
That was not a walk.
Scooted.
Well, she did. She made a move.
That's true.
Usually my washer does that.
Yeah, exactly. My dryer wobbled over.
Yeah, that was. She had
that dryer's out of balance.
She had a misspell on the side. Did you see it?
It was
No.
on purpose. I mean,
no,
it,
it was where did the go?
Oh, as opposed to where did they go?
Yeah. And again, it's got to be one of those things where it's just like, I just want to get through this.
She ran out of time. 3, 2,
The
1.
last second, I know.
Oh, I didn't have time for the why.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's
It's why sometimes,
thank for these,
right?
the remote. Sometimes why.
A-E-I-O-U and sometimes
felt
why?
like she should have started with a bigger box. I think that would have been easier for her to make the
I
dryer.
was impressed she got in it.
I thought that was so clever. I love
Really
that.
cute. Very cute.
No, I think it was great. I thought it was fun. It was,
I couldn't
soft
see going to a
monster.
party the whole time.
Yes.
Hors d'oeuvre, no, I'm good. I'm fine.
Now I'm
No,
fine.
no.
Just pop one right in. I'll
Yeah.
open my mouth.
She waddles over to the buffet.
I thought it was cool.
Oh, and
I would do it.
Amy offered her sock on it, which I thought was really cute.
I'll bet she didn't get it back either. I would have kept it.
Yeah, I know, totally. As a souvenir, sell it on eBay. Kim.
Wait, before you gotta
yes.
say the great sacrifice.
Oh,
Great
absolutely.
talk. Excellent
puns.
puns.
There were a lot of good
Yeah,
ones in there.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
there were. Okay, Kim made a bat head / dog.
Bat to Rowdy.
All right.
Yeah.
That's Rowdy.
So, saying that
go.
you were there, how impressive or not was that? Because I mean, it looked huge. First of all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was mind blowing. I mean, it was like he's either gonna win or lose. Like this is a no.
Exactly.
He did not go for a double on this one, right?
No, that's
Like,
right.
That's
he
how I
went
felt
for it.
watching it too. I was
Yeah.
like, I feel like all the materials, the actual piece was awesome, like what he used, but the concept, I was just like, I don't understand. It's either going to be like the best or, like you said.
I think it wasn't a great sample of his skill. I mean, the creature itself, the dog, what turned out to be a dog, was great. I think that costume was great.
Yeah.
But I thought it really was a feat of his rebranding. Because he starts out as a bat. He goes, now it's a dog, and it's amazing.
And then it just stuck to that story.
There you go. It's like,
And then it was his dog.
Yeah.
So it was like, it was like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
and then he created a story and a narrative out of the whole thing.
He took
improv.
everyone's duster, right? I mean, there's no way he did that just like borrowing a couple of them.
Was there a PA who had to go to Home Depot and get more dusters?
It was like,
there was a duster shortage.
Yeah.
duster and pool
I
noodle.
was
But
wondering why
here's
I
the thing.
couldn't
I
get
mean,
any
even his
dusters.
the drawing that we saw, he's standing inside the bat at the time, facing outwards. But then for some reason, he decides, no, I'm gonna turn around.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put a heart on my back so I don't see my butt. That's what I love. And done. I mean, I think that's the creative part. It's like, okay, how do I present this? And it's like he's making lemonade out of lemons. That's what I thought.
Were you there at all for his moment of epiphany when he decided to change things? Like, was he sitting in the corner like staring at it, or did you see that at all?
I didn't. I mean, those ones are very fast.
Yeah.
You know, like
You don't have
3
time.
hours now sounds like,
my
that's sweet. It's forever. But I mean, and you got to do some chatting, and so it's just on those you're kind of cranking. But I knew he was making something huge covered with feather dusters, and when he climbed in it, I knew it was intense, whatever it was going to be.
And I love that the quietest guy on the set put something over his head. You can't even hear him.
Again,
But thank God for Nick.
I would love to see
Translated.
both of them at a party.
Yeah.
Neither one of them can like eat hors d'oeuvres.
No.
It's just be like,
No.
there's the guy with the head.
After he wins,
there's the
Sneak it
dryer.
in.
And after he wins, what does he say? I didn't see this coming.
That was the best line.
I think he's like the funniest guy unintentionally.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh my God.
You know?
It was great.
Right.
All the
So
stuff that he
under
says.
the radar.
Totally.
Under the
Yeah.
Great.
Then we
I
had
love that.
Amber, A Pizza My Mind. Dana said, "I've seen the pizza 1,000 times on Etsy, but Simon said it was pleasing to look at, and he suggested that she break the rules and not be literal. Thoughts, team?
Yeah, this is what's confusing to me, that you get these notes from the judges, and I'm sure some of them are extremely helpful. But then you get a note like, okay, this is on trend. Well, this is if it's there 1,000 times, isn't that trend? Right. Is that a trend? I mean,
There's a fine line though between saturation and trend.
No, I
think.
agree, but I think
Yeah.
it's awfully confusing sometimes. And what's wrong with being chic? I mean, if you did a craft that's chic, why is that a bad thing? I don't get it.
Well,
Steve's going to talk
look at- it's-
confused. Steve's going to talk about that later.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
There's a segment, Steve on Chic, coming up.
Yeah.
Well, and they didn't even, address. Look, it's pretty funny. It's pretty witty. Piece of
Yeah.
my mind,
Right, yeah.
and different
well, it's-
thought bubbles and
The
stuff.
show
But it
is
was
all about
just.
fun.
And it's actually the opposite of literal, because it's a piece of my mind. I mean,
Yeah,
Right.
It's, it's in my mind.
Yeah. Fair point.
So
Then we had this guy named Billy
yes.
who walked through the door with his pizza,
Oh,
piece
man.
of cake.
Was that
and
intended?
that was
No, that's not
wasn't it?
done at all.
hilarious. I
no.
loved it.
I wasn't sure. I was like, oh, nice. He's preschool again.
It was a little like a dog with one of the cones
I
on their
thought it was
head.
your
I thought
homage
it was
to
adorable.
Offerman.
It was adorable. Hilarious. So cute. And the look on your face was like, what? What? And you made it through. You were a beefcake.
Yep.
Yeah.
piece of beefcake,
Piece of beefcake.
Piece of
yeah.
beefcake.
not the whole beefcake.
Hey, did that come to you right away, or did you throw out a couple of other ideas, or what was
Well, like my wife calls my son and I like beefcakes, so it's kind of like a joke in the back of my mind. And I think also like I was realizing too, like I think I just had wrestling on
Right.
my mind for this one, because it was like there's a wrestler named Brutus the Barber Beefcake like back in the day, and then I kind of did my 4th of July thing, like
Sure.
wrestling. Like I think I
Right.
had like a sort of mini theme going on there.
Nice.
And I just thought,
Nice.
with the puns.
Yeah,
The
you're
show
right.
is
You're
all
right.
about
Keep it going.
puns.
You were right
I
there.
know.
Well, when you
I
first
love
said you were gonna be, when you're gonna have something on your head, and you said meat, I literally
Lady Gaga.
I was going back to last week with the platter. I'm going, is he gonna actually put meat on his head?
I think
That's where I went with
Maybe.
that.
Yeah.
Like, this is he really? Because of Nick.
Yeah.
I thought, oh my God, he's
That would get you Nick points for sure.
Yeah.
I think if I had won the Snackadium, then I would have started throwing meat all over myself.
Everywhere.
But, you know what I
Absolutely.
mean? Like, I'm
Yeah,
not
just,
gonna
just
go.
drape it. And go, whatever. Nick.
Nick.
I thought it was really, really cool. I
Oh,
thought
thanks.
it was, and I like the fact that they actually referenced the Bake Off.
Yeah.
That's true.
The Great British Bake Off. That was a funny joke too. She talked about like beef and rhubarb.
She has some great. Is he genius or genius? I mean, there's a lot of.
good
She
stuff.
was.
Yeah.
and
She's on fire.
I'm guessing not all of that's written.
No.
But I want to say also about the cake, the beef cake. I like the little, I don't know what you call it, the little doilies of
Garland.
My mop,
garlands.
the mop.
Yes. I mean, that was a creative way of using the mop.
What was
thank
with the
you.
What was with the scrunchie? How come it fell off?
That fell
Yeah,
off,
tell us
right?
about that moment.
I mean, I
Scandal.
know. I mean, I thought I was really doing well until that fell off. I just didn't have time to sew them on. I pinned them on, and then that one fell off. You know what I mean? It
Yeah, I
was
do know
just
what you
one of
mean.
those things,
Because it's a
you know?
scrunchie. If it was a roof, I would have stayed.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I do have a quick question. Generally, how done are you by the time it hits zero? Is
That's a
there
great
still
question.
a lot of running around, or are you guys like going, all right?
Well, I think you saw with Robert this week. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you're like, you got some time left, and you're like, all right, I'm kind of done. I don't know. You know, like what else? I might just mess this up if I keep working on it. And then other times they're like, put it down, put it. You know,
Yeah.
step
Yeah.
away from
I
the
don't see
film.
a gun.
Yeah.
Stop the crafting.
Okay.
So Kiem won
Yeah.
with his dog
How
Rowdy
could he
Head.
Not.
Exactly.
It was
Well, I don't know. I still think I thought the piece itself was great. I loved all the the feathers and the dog resemblance and everything like that. But I still went, why is he backwards? Why does he have a heart?
Oh God, there was a lot
Yeah,
wrong with
like
it.
Again,
the theme,
there's something
the
I have
concept.
no idea what that is. And even when you explain it, I go, why is the dog eating you? I that part of me goes, yeah, I don't get that. Where something like beefcake, no, okay,
get that.
I'm there. If you walked in, I go, hey, it's beefcake.
Right,
Nice.
right. Or like, what are you? Okay.
Exactly. So even when you explain it to me, I'm going, I don't get his costume. I still don't get his costume.
I saw 3 hours and this huge thing.
Yeah.
It looked like a dog, and there was a guy in it. I went, yeah, okay. If I saw that at a party, I'd go, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Right.
You'd go, why is that guy getting eaten by that?
Yeah, you
Why is he
would.
backwards? Why does he have a heart on his butt? What is that?
What is happening?
Okay, that's true too.
Is this real life?
Exactly. Is that Frida Kahlo?
I would, yeah, it would
Oh my
take me in a
God.
direction.
So have we talked about all of our?
We have not.
What else we got on the?
Oh yeah, I didn't know. We've had talked about all our contestants. Yes, that.
Oh, well,
so
then-
so here ends the faster craft.
Okay, yeah, because we got to get to other things. But I want to remind everybody that the network here at AfterBuzz, we produce all kinds of after shows for all your favorite TV shows. We got what is it, over 100 a week this time? I'm not exactly sure how many we
A
do.
lot.
But we need your help. We're asking that you go to subscribe to one or more of our YouTube channels. So go there and subscribe to our channels. And also, when you're doing that, you'll find that we have a whole bunch of other things that you would probably enjoy. All kinds of shows, from dramas to reality TV to competition shows, sci-fi, anything you can imagine, it's there. So go rate, subscribe.
Do it all.
We do it all, and leave us a comment if you do, and a shout out for you, and then we'll make sure that we do the same here as we do our programs.
Indeed, and we thank you all because we wouldn't be doing this if it weren't for you. Or
Yes.
we would, but
we'll be
it
able
would
to
be
bring
really
more
sad.
shows to you.
It would be
Very
really sad.
lonely.
Just talking in the mirror. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to our mastercraft. So it was decorating your home, your front porch, and your front door as a holiday collection. All right, so let's start with Billy doing the 4th of July. Beer
Billy.
cans, wrestler door,
Yeah.
extreme patriotism.
Now again,
Go America.
was that an instant one for you? It's like 4th of July. That's it. I love this one. Or
I thought it was for me. It was actually more kind of like, well, I'm from Massachusetts, and on the Cape
they were
where
the
we
Patriots
live,
colors.
yeah, and like they're crazy about. I mean, they do this
Yeah.
thing, bonfires on the beach, tons of fireworks. But I also thought, like, maybe there's some kind of room to do something fun, because it seems like 4th of July, you kind of, like Halloween, I think you see all kinds of stuff. But
Right.
4th of July is kind of a certain thing.
Pretty
So I thought
standard.
maybe I can have some fun kind of working in there, my thought, and then I thought wrestling and kind of like that, you know.
And then how much, I don't know if you can say this or not, but like how much of a heads up do they give you about the mastercraft? Like, do they tell you right then on the spot, or do you kind of have a little bit of a heads up, of warning, or like how
Tell us
prepared
right
are
on the
you?
spot. We have
Really?
to get right after it.
And then so as soon as they tell you the theme, then it's go.
Yeah, it's go time.
What about timing on that? So you get 3 hours for the faster one. Do you have a time frame ahead of time? Do they tell you we're going to give you
Oh, for the bigger one?
for the mastercraft?
That's
how long?
about 12.
So do they tell you you got 12 hours? Or
Yeah.
they do.
And
Okay.
is it all in one day? It's 12 straight hours?
I think, you know, depended on the when, you know, some
Got
of them
it.
I think they broke up, and some
Yeah.
like you can kind of see it's like morning, you know what I mean, a
Got
little
it.
bit.
Got it.
But it was always, I mean, there was a clock, like
Yeah.
it was, you know, it was
Always
on
looming,
time.
always ticking.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't the hardest thing the time management?
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
That was really hard. And you know, and then let's say you're working, and then the judges come up and they have some tweaks. Now you're down to 8 hours, and you're oh man, you know, and then it kind of, you know, you're like you're recalculating at that point.
How do you do the materials list? Because you had a lot of specific things in yours. So is that included in the 12 hours where you go, okay, well, I got to do a Home Depot run or any generic store?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Lowe's.
But we all kind of had our specialty, you know, like it was kind of like
So you
know, a
required like
team.
2 tons of felt to
Exactly.
be on set at all times.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
And a concrete
I had my
too.
go-to, yeah. And then other stuff, yeah, you could ask for, you know, you could ask for it.
Okay.
Do they have a whole barn that we don't see that has all these
Supplies.
materials? Supplies.
Well, they probably have a ton of runners.
I need
You know,
glue gun, quick!
I will say that in the season 1 application process, they ask you what materials do you work with. They ask you like a really specific list when I submitted for the show. So I would imagine there was a lot, like there were people just pulling those things aside so that they would be ready for whoever asked for them. Because
I know next time you put Rice Krispie treats and meat.
Yes.
that's
of course,
right.
'cause you can have
And
that.
nachos.
And
Who's got the nachos?
That will definitely work.
So the trapunto, how'd that work out for
Yes.
you?
Yeah.
Oh, I love
How
that.
did it taste?
I love that.
Delicious.
That was so great. I mean, I think it added a ton to it,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it was a great
That
suggestion,
dimension,
and it was like a material I work with. Yeah, I thought that was really cool.
Okay, did you have to do like a quick web search to go like, what
What's
the hell is this?
trapunto?
Or did he kind of explain it to you? I mean, how
did.
quickly did you pick it up?
He explained it, and I had seen the technique before.
Oh, you had?
I
Okay.
just didn't. I hadn't heard it said that way
Okay.
in a British accent. You know what I mean?
Italian word.
Yeah, it's like-
Italian
important.
word in a British accent.
By
Yeah.
a judge who's going to be judging it.
Exactly.
And I think it's
exactly.
funny. I don't think they showed it, but it was like I think I couldn't remember it. And then Nick was like, "I think it's Tres Puntos," and I was like, "Oh, okay." I was like, "No, that's not. I don't think that's it." You know what I mean? It was like we kind of were like, "All right, what was it?" You know?
Well, it was
that's
cool.
funny.
The arms look great.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
thank
did. They
you.
looked amazing. It was a very, a lot of your work. It was very graphic, and I don't mean that in the
Right.
Race
in
Really?
one sense, but like graphically artistic. You know, lots of bright colors. You know, sharp shapes and all that kind of stuff. I thought.
Now, I saw the beer cans. What else was on there? Because they don't. I don't. My whole pet
gosh.
peeve is they don't spend
Yes.
enough time going
Yeah.
through every element, and
I
that
know.
drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Because you guys spend so much time creating this. I
It
want to
was
see
like
all of it.
Goggles at the top.
Oh yeah, it was the
yeah.
boss.
Yeah, I had kind of like.
Oh, it was a wrestler.
It was kind of it was a wrestler with kind of like Oakley glasses and kind of like big hair, and then I had some firework applique like on the door, and then
Yeah.
for the door itself was an American flag, but with the stars I kind of made it like.
Yeah.
You know when like a cartoon character gets
yeah.
punched and so I put those and they had the beer cans and then actually had wrestling ropes coming out and like turnbuckles.
See, I see.
That's what that
They
was.
didn't spend enough time, and that drives me nuts.
Remote control.
Because I want to hear the whole story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't you the only one who actually like decorated the actual door? I know Amber put candy on hers, but
I think
And Joe put.
No, Joe
no,
put
no, no, no,
Joe
that's
put
right.
leprechauns.
Right.
Yeah.
But yours looked more integrated into the door, I think.
Yeah, most of
And
it.
Kim also had a thing on his.
Okay, so I'm totally wrong,
Yeah.
is what you're saying. Sorry. I guess
say it correctly.
yours struck me as the most like.
Yeah, well,
integrated
they applied
within the-
something. He painted the whole thing and
Yeah.
made it a statement rather than just something on it.
Thanks for trying to save me, John.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to move on through these kind of quickly. So we had Amber who did her Valentine's Day notes. She had a typewriter, the hands, the candy box, garland, letters, a mailbox.
Yeah.
She wanted it to be very full I think she succeeded.
She did accomplish. Yeah, that was very
Yes.
busy. Sorry.
I did like the
Very full.
typewriter and the letter. I thought that was really
I did too.
So that was
original.
interesting. I like
was
that.
fun.
I thought the hands were kind of, I know yeah.
The typewriter hand specifically, they painted it red. I'm like, well, there's your Halloween because you've got a severed hand on the typewriter.
Right.
And were you not expecting her kid to come through that door when it was knocking? I mean,
when
I
it was
like going,
Nick. I know. I kind of thought that too.
I did too.
Somebody's need. I'm like, oh my God, Nick's gonna bring her kid out, and that's so
And Nick
unfair.
lose 20 minutes crying.
exactly.
That's a very special episode of Making It.
Right.
Do you ever cry? Because I think you can win if you cry. Yeah, and that was a moment of the tension of like going crazy. Yeah. So, but that was very heartfelt and real, and I enjoyed
I have to say, I really
her
liked
sadness.
what
Amy.
Thank you. God, I keep calling her Leslie because I'm so used to seeing her. So, Amy, I like what she had to say about the fact that she wrote a note to herself, and I thought that thought that was very cute of her to cute, not cute, but cute of her to pick out.
Agreed. I thought that was amazing.
Yeah, it was full. It was full.
Okay, Joe, St. Patrick's Day. Leprechaun, shamrocks, balloon, rainbow arch, gold nuggets on the floor. She was exhausted. She had creator's block.
She had difficulty.
She did.
Did you? Were you aware of it in the room, or is it? Yeah, everybody has their own difficulty at some point. So
Yeah. I mean, it definitely was. Yeah, I mean, I think they did a really good job of like sort of showing people's mental state. At that time, it was just, I mean, it's just, you're in this thing, and it's a lot of work, and it's. I mean, you think like, oh, I get to be creative all the time, but then we know it's like
Exactly.
in a
On demand.
competition, and on
Yeah.
demand, it's hard, and I think, and then I think, I think the balloon thing was like sort of hard to manage. I mean, I think she was stressed about that one.
Yeah.
There was
But-
a phrase. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Oh
Oh,
no,
well,
there was. Go ahead.
Let's rock, paper, scissors for this. Go.
There was a phrase. I don't see the Joe factor. When you get a note like that, like a Joe factor, something that vague, do you know what they're talking about, or do you just kind of go, okay?
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, because when that was said, Joe factor, I didn't know what that meant at all.
Right.
What is a Joe factor? So I'm curious, as a contestant, is it like, oh, I know what you're saying, or do you just kind of?
Yeah. I mean, it's this is like the 4th episode, right? So, I mean, like we're pretty hyper tuned to what they're telling us and what the feedback is, both in the visits and obviously when they're judging the stuff. So, yeah, I think for me, like what that she has like such a great like strong design element, and she can use like any all these different kinds of materials. So it is it's just vague enough to be like, I got to be more Joe, but you know what I mean? You kind of have to interpret it your own way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to comment that I think we saw a lot during the Mastercraft that the moms were having a really hard time because they talked about missing their kids and all that stuff. But the dads also, I'm sure, face like being away from home and all that stuff and missing their kids and stuff too. So that was hard.
Oh, yeah.
You have a child, don't you?
You have 2.
Two. Got it.
Yeah.
you don't. Miss him. You don't miss him though, right?
Right. No.
Yeah.
It just seemed really hard for the moms, like they talked about that. So,
So one of the things I want to bring up is glitter again.
Yes,
Bringing it up
because-
again this
Glitter.
week.
Her fallback.
So Dana said the winning part of Joe's
okay, I
piece
loved it. I just want to point those
was
out.
the stones. I have to say, I liked the stones. But the fact that the glitter impressed her,
Gold
I'm
floor.
frustrated by that. I'm frustrated by Dana being
Yeah.
impressed by glitter.
It's a shiny thing. She likes the shiny thing. It's like, what?
I'm frustrated just as trying to keep a house clean. You are living with glitter
Yeah,
for like
you're
10
not keeping
years.
that
But
clean.
Kelsey, it worked for you. You loved it. You thought
It
was-
worked for me,
Yeah,
guys.
okay.
It worked for me. I loved it. But a thing too about that piece was about Joe's work is she was having a really hard time, and the leprechaun and the rainbow, like we've seen something similar to that. So I think that it wasn't maybe as stand-outish as the washing machine or whatever. So I think that the
Right.
gold really did pop.
It did pop, and I loved
As
that
far
she
as visual.
tied it to her child. You know, I'm having a hard time getting through this. What would my child do? She would glitter it. I was like, yeah, I get it. It's not that I didn't like the piece. It's the fact that Dana is impressed by glitter. No offense. I'm just, I'm like, ugh.
But like an amateur like myself is also really impressed with glitter, and that it says something, you know. And I'm not afraid to say that.
I'm a little afraid to say what I just said. So,
But yeah, the glitter
John,
is fun.
did you have something to say?
I can't say that on air.
Also, she said
stop.
if she was going to go out, she was going to go out with glitter, and that was a fun phrase to say.
It was adorable.
But
it was adorable.
for me, I think the fact that the glitter was the standout says not so much about the glitter as about the rest of it. Because if glitter's your standout, what is it?
It
What
did.
does that
It
say
did
about
really
the
look
rest of
kind
it?
of like school, decoration.
Well,
Classroom
and
decoration.
admittedly,
somebody
she
said
was
that, right?
having a difficult
did they?
time.
Yeah. No, I mean, didn't one of the judges?
I don't know.
I think one of the judges said that.
Dana
mute
said
when
that.
I watch. I don't hear the dialogue.
Okay, we're moving on, people. Robert did Easter. A goose laid the golden egg out of paper mache, papier mache. It was very chic. He used neutrals with that raspberry red, gold eggs, had the color palette.
You even looked like you had a robin egg blue and a door.
Yes. Yeah. Steve, go.
Well, I mean, this is my chic thing. I looked up chic, and it looked to me like that was chic.
Yep.
And the other thought I had on it, he chose Easter, which Easter is at the end of it's a religious holiday.
Yes.
And I thought it was a really good representation of a holiday. It was stylish. It was chic. And I'm so confused on, okay, so what's chic and what's over the top?
Yeah.
Because I don't know what he could have added to that to make it more of the Robert factor.
Right.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was
thought it was
clearly a
good.
Robert factor. I mean, that was Robert all
It was
over.
understated, but I thought it was inviting. I didn't have a problem with that.
I feel like sometimes there's a little bit of inconsistency with the tone of the show or the tone of the judging, because on one hand, they're trying to be very folksy and, embrace things like crafting, which is inherently folksy, and then coming in and saying, it needs to be more edgy, it needs to be more surreal. And
Surreal, yeah, they said that a lot.
I think, how does that feel to someone like you? I mean, you do tend to take, your signature is to take material that we all know from very young childhood and make it into fine art. So, I mean, I guess you have really figured out how to surf both of those waves. But did you ever find any issue with like that kind of trying to figure out the line between art and craft, between edgy and folksy, any of that?
I mean, I kind of felt like, for me, it was more about just, look, what's like the most like, crazy idea I can get past, like I can get on here,
Right.
like it was kind of like, and I that to me is the artistic sort of part of it. It was like, like I've always loved tacos or wrestling, and so it's like, okay, how can I fit my issues or artistic ideas, into this thing? And so, and then I think the craft obviously is coming from the materials we're using
Right.
and just the shortness of the time.
Right.
You're not able to like, make, you gotta, to kind of rush with it. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So I mean, I think that like it wasn't a consideration of like how can I make this more crafty. It was more like how what more can I do? Like what's a better idea for this?
Elevating and
Exactly.
and adding to it.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it does go back to, I think we had this discussion before we went up, but maybe not, knowing when it's done.
Right.
Yeah.
And he just felt like, I think it's done. And I looked at it and I went, that is a really nice, subtle, and I think that was a problem. It was subtle.
Right.
Yeah.
Could be, but and again, I also, similar with yours, I want us to know each element because he clearly had a design there. And I'm going, well, what is that? Why aren't they showing us what that is in the corner?
Right.
Because they left out his mat.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
exactly.
the
And I was
egg.
just-
The mat, yeah.
And I wanted to, and we're talking about curb appeal, and whereas Joe had this leprechaun on the door, that's something I probably would walk by because it is something I've seen in the grocery store or whatever. But his, I wanted to know which every little detail was, and similar to yours, I was
Yes.
like, well, wait, what is that? Why did he put that out there? And
Yeah.
those kinds, and then similar with Kim's. Because that one I seriously, if I saw that on the curb, I go, what is that? Why is that? And I would be drawn forward.
Yeah.
Right.
So let's talk about
Absolutely.
Kim's. So he did Halloween. He had the tree branch tunnel that was textured with spray foam. He had a fog machine. There was an
Some
infinity
sort of-
mirror
yeah,
or something,
something.
I think,
Yeah,
on his
yeah.
door that he decorated because he decorated the door. Anyway, thoughts, you guys? You were impressed with the texture.
Yeah, I
John?
thought the texture. First of all, it's a great idea to use expanding foam just as an element, and then to have it work well. I mean, that looked like great bark. I mean, I've just never seen that done. I thought I was very impressed with it. I don't know if he'd ever done that before, but that was great thinking.
I thought the
And it-
layers were really
yeah, the
cool. That
texture
there was
of
so
it.
much.
Yeah.
Like,
It was actually very simple. There wasn't
it's
a lot
just-
going on, but he was able to make a lot of intensity in 3 layers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Three or
Yeah.
4
Yeah.
layers.
3 or
And,
4.
and having that
There's all
focal point in
color
that you
and
weren't
depth
sure
and
about and
texture.
everything. It was
Yeah.
like, if I were a kid, I don't care what you're handing out.
Yeah.
You're holding on to it, man.
So that's what you put out if you don't want the kids to take the candy.
If you don't
Yeah.
want to buy candy.
I like this candy. I don't want anybody to take it.
Exactly. No, I
Yeah.
just don't answer the door.
Yeah, there you go.
I thought it was cool too. Kind of like I've noticed, like he's very into like space and like the cosmos, and like it felt like a wormhole or a portal
Yes.
or something.
Yeah, that's what I-
And
that's-
Nick made a
I
great
actually
joke
say
about getting
portal.
sucked in.
Yeah.
It was cool how he kind of took it and kind of made it his own thing.
I thought he was going to get dinged for doing Halloween twice. I honestly thought the judges were going to be upset with that.
I know, but
Go ahead.
he's good to do Halloween twice. I feel like of all of the contestants, like that feels like his jam.
I think he picked Easter first, and everybody was like, "You're gonna
really?
scare people. Don't do it." Let's go to Halloween.
that's hilarious.
How about
That's
Good
it.
Friday?
Was this the one where Simon said, I
Simon
like
said.
it and I don't know why?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
he said that about
Yes.
that.
Okay, well, just that statement there, I went, that's the judging. I don't know why. And I'm like, how do you
play to that?
play to that?
Yeah.
It is. I mean, in his defense, it's so subjective and so hard.
That's true.
I
Yeah.
think you know what I mean. And people are coming at obviously after a show, I get so many calls and messages like of support or of criticism, and it's like everybody has an opinion, right, on something like that. It's not like you can taste it and say, "Oh,
No.
that tasted bad."
No,
you know?
you can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just
the nature of the
cross they're gonna
show.
bear because
the nature of the show.
It's kind of fun, you know.
It
in a
is,
way,
but that's
you
what gets
know?
everybody
There's a lot to
talking.
talk
Fun
about.
and
Yeah.
frustrating on both ends.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, why? We want to know why it wasn't picked. Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
guys. So
I would
Amber
never say that was first.
Amber won,
Because she cried.
and Robert was eliminated.
Yeah.
They said he lost his magic from prior challenges. His originality wasn't showed up, and was not showing up. And he said, "If I'm being sent away for being too sophisticated or full of chic,
Yeah.
full of chic,
Again, because
full of chic." God, I can't even remember my
his original. I just struggle with that because Joe's originality. Where was the originality on that? I've seen her do rainbows. I've seen her. I mean, it's just.
I really did not expect him. I
think
was
it
wowed.
goes exactly back to what Billy said. It's so totally
It is totally subjective,
Yeah.
but that's the nature of us being viewers. We get to
Yeah.
have that part of the conversation too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's part of the fun.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, and for me, I wouldn't have picked Amber as the winner either. I thought it was interesting. I just didn't think it didn't really float my boat. I don't know about.
I honestly, I did not think that he was going to be going home this week. I thought it was going to be Joe,
Yeah.
just because of her mastercraft, and I just was shocked.
Right.
I loved both of his things that he did this week, so I just don't understand that part. But you know,
And they always talk about finish and sophisticated. I mean, he had a very finished piece. It was, I mean, clearly he was
Yeah.
done early. I mean, there wasn't anything.
that was
wasn't-
something that I wanted. I was like, I want that on my door. Like,
Right.
I would do.
Yeah,
it
it was very
well, I mean, I wouldn't
aspirational.
do
Yeah.
it,
You could
but
see
you
that.
know, if
Yeah.
he could do it for me, that would be great.
That's one of the things you talk about a lot is the show
very-
being aspirational, which I think
Absolutely.
is a really important element.
Yeah, and thankfully, I mean, even to your credit, I mean, I don't know that I could ever do anything close to what you, but I kind of go, well, it's felt I might be able to do
Right.
something like that, but no.
Exactly.
And that has been one of the really coolest things about this is just getting messages from kids and families that are now inspired to grab some cardboard and make a taco truck or make
Yeah.
a costume. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just that's why we wanted to do it. You know
So
what I mean?
how long have you been working in Felt?
Since I guess probably 8 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what drew you to felt?
Well, I originally have like a sports background. I'm interested in sports and stuff, and so I started. And I was renting some space in the Fabric District, and I was walking around, and I started thinking about sports memorabilia, like pennants and
right.
like banners and like that kind of stuff. And I thought, man, what if I try doing my own sort of take on this thing, and then from there, after I did that, I was like, oh, well, now if I stuff it, I can go in another dimension with it, and then I think the other part about it that was so neat is that there's just so many people have, like you said, these like sort of preconceived, like it's from childhood, like the felt boards and, and different craft projects and the sort of sports memorabilia stuff. It just seemed to like, open it up for a lot of people,
it makes fine art accessible.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, which I think is a great.
For those of you watching on YouTube, Billy brought a bunch of his pieces. Why don't you hold up a couple of those?
Sure. So this is like a sports card piece I did. This is felt applique, Sandy Koufax. So this is like sort of like
great picture.
The first,
Amazing.
it was a picture for the Dodgers. So this is like kind of like the first idea I had was like sort of taking. Like applique and sort of painting with it, and then from there, I kind of did.
Almost looks like quilting.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And then from there, I kind of did
Trapunto.
This is where I kind of decided to stuff it, and I was, like being from Massachusetts and stuff, like everybody's got like fish on their wall, so I kind of the pun idea of like a sport fish. So I was like, what if I make like a Dodger, like sport fish,
I like it.
That's great.
And then from there, actually, the one of the things I did that was in some of those press things is like I did an installation of the Los Angeles River in felt. So I did like stuff like this tilapia fish. And like everything that they have in the river, cans, and they actually like do a tally of what they pull out of the river when they clean it up. So I use that to like make this whole long thing. Of the
How big
river.
was that piece? The whole installation?
It was like 20 feet by 4 feet.
Wow.
Yeah.
You had a big catch. That big catch fish I've been seeing on the internet.
Yes.
How big was that?
Oh, that guy. That was like, geez, that was like a 12-foot fish, I think, or maybe.
How long
15,
did that
but-
take you to create?
Well, that was very similar to quilting, because like if you think about it, you know what I mean. Like it's like that's not that big a quilt. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it,
Yeah.
it kind of was like once I had two sides, it wasn't like that big, but it was kind of fun. That it was like so big that I could take it down to the lake and like pretend I caught it.
That was fun to see. Yeah.
It's 12 feet and 2 pounds.
And then you also you have your pill
Oh yeah,
series
yeah.
here.
Yeah. I did. There's an event downtown called We Rise, and I did like a pile of pills. It was probably like about 3.5 feet tall by about 5 feet, and then it's all these like sort of like stuffed little pills, and then
What
I
do you
have.
got there? What's it say?
Klonopin.
Yeah,
Klonopin and Prozac.
There's a Prozac right there.
Yeah.
And I did a pie, and then I had some little legs like sticking out, like as though someone had been buried by the pills. Yeah. Yeah.
I want to see hold up the fire one.
Oh, sure. Yeah, and this was another one I did for the same group. I did like Molotov cocktails. So I did like, and there was like like a juice box, Tapatio. It was almost like
Tapatio,
if like
that's
I love the
is
the
good.
heads on that, and then you got the beer.
Yeah, and then I have a beer one. So I like I actually did these like I was kind of inspired by like the women's march, and like sort of like all that energy. So I did like a whole cloud of these, almost like they had all like everybody in the neighborhood had just thrown Molotov cocktails, but they're harmless.
they're felt cocktails.
Yeah, it's like no violence.
And you sell these, right?
Yeah.
You have pieces that you sell, and your website is bkheel.com, BKHEEL.com.
That's correct.
That's also your Instagram, and your Twitter something else. It has something else on it.
It's BKeel1, I think.
One,
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us some stuff. What about the show didn't we see that was like super juicy, interesting that you can tell us
That you can reveal.
that you can reveal?
Super juicy, interesting. Wow, that's tough. I'm trying to think.
Was there anything where you walked in and went, "Oh my God, I was so not prepared for that"?
Well, I mean,
Or are you a guy who's just ready at all?
No. Well, the Halloween one, for sure. Yeah. Like, I mean, because I think there have been other shows that use that format where they're like, here's a box of stuff, go crazy. And so, we hadn't really been working that way. And we still had our kind of like go-to stuff that we could use. But yeah, that was one where it was like, whoa, what this is going to be hard. We'll see what happens here. But juicy, I'm trying to think. I'll have to think about that one.
Got to put you on the spot.
How's the being on the show changed you as an artist? Has it opened up new pathways for you? Have you thought differently, or thought creatively differently, or anything like that?
I think it's warped my concept of time. Like the amount of stuff you can get done in a 3 or 12 hour period. You kind of think to yourself after you get done with one of these things, like, what have I been doing with myself? You know what I mean? I was really a slacker
When you're
before.
forced to do something.
Yeah, like when you really have
Right.
to. And also just the idea, like I think, like for the holiday one with Kiem's or like with mine with the muscles or whatever, it's kind of like, the idea of just like going, going big. You know what I mean? Like whatever your little sketch is that you start with, go crazy. Make it even crazier, and then see if you can do it. And then that was
really
a lot of fun.
stretches you then.
Yeah, exactly. It was kind of like, okay, I could do sort of what you'd see and make that, or what if I just go nuts? What's gonna happen?
That's great.
How does your creative confidence change over the course of the competition? I mean, I'm guessing in the beginning, it's going to be different from.
Sure. Yeah.
Which way does that go?
Well, like I felt like for the pig one I did, where that was like really hard. That was like I didn't know what the criteria really was. You know what I mean? Like you do further on in the show, or how the judges are going to react.
Right.
I was very nervous about that. I just didn't. I was stressed about the time. It was the whole. It was the very new experience. But then I think as you go, you kind of. You get in the groove a little bit. You kind of get a little bit of the feeling, and the challenges are fun. Like they did come up with cool, fun challenges.
We talked about that.
Right?
We think they're great.
And did you have a favorite out of what we've seen so far? Like we've seen the Boz, Putt Putt, this week's Taco Truck. Do you have a favorite that you were just like, yes, I'm stoked to do this, or was it different every time?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like for me, like I would say like. I was really hoping I could get the Boz on there.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
great.
Yeah.
That was one where I was like,
It was amazing.
yeah, I was like, I mean, all right.
Why not?
And then the taco truck is another one. I was just kind of doing it like, can I get, let me do this on TV? All right, And so,
So great.
I would say like definitely the larger craft challenges have been like were the most rewarding for me. Having a little bit more time to like get them done. Probably the taco truck is probably the one that
Any besides yours that you were really impressed with
That we've seen already.
I would take it to Amber's real quick, just the Valentine's Day one, because I think that it was when you talk about the craft to art, kind of thing.
Yes.
I kind of feel like she's such a great crafter and very charismatic. And I do think using those weird hands and coloring them and just making this weird thing was kind of outside her comfort zone, and that like really impressed me that she was willing to, not just do like what you would think would be the Valentine's Day door. You know what I mean?
Okay, gang, we need to do quick news. We have 5 seconds left, but there's a little bit of news that I have to get into. Makers get political as retailer Joanne calls for crafters to oppose the Trump tariffs. This is from Bloomberg. Joanne, the crafting and supply store, has warned shoppers that proposed levies on imported products from China will hit their bottom lines. So they have been asking crafters and makers to sign a petition against the...
Crafters get political.
Exactly. They're talking about the tariffs hitting things like cookie cutters, candle holders, and yarn. And the CEO is going to be testifying in the next couple of days about that.
Away from glitter.
Exactly. Take your hands off my glitter. And then the big news, Making It has been renewed for a second season! We're so excited. According to the Hollywood Reporter, it has averaged 1.4 ratings amongst the desired demographic and 6.3 million total viewers, including the delayed watchers. So it's clearly a success. And we're all very happy about that.
Maybe we'll have a certain guest judge coming back.
Judge indeed.
That would be cool. That would be cool. Some contestants from this season coming in as guest judges.
That would be amazing. Yeah.
Okay.
So, Billy, what's happening with you next?
I'm doing.
10 seconds.
Yeah, sorry. I'm doing. Well, go to my website. I'm doing a group show of like fiber art at the end of September.
Oh, nice.
And then I think I'm going to do an installation at Complex Con in November.
Great.
Those are the first two things coming up
Excellent.
now. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being
Thank
with
you.
us.
Yeah, this
It's
was
been
fun.
amazing.
Thanks.
This has been great.
Steve, where can people find you?
Napping in the lounge.
Okay. Kelsey?
You can find me on the interwebs at Kels Hightower.
You can find me at Incognito.
Yes.
Oh, nice, John.
I'm on Twitter at Tamara Berg, and my website is tamaracentral.com. See you guys next week.
Thanks,
Thanks, Billy.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Thanks,
William.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.